Today's video is going to focus on shape, the element of art pertaining to shapes. That's what's going to really primarily shine throughout this abstract composition that we're going to be creating. So we'll be using some primary examples of just some simple geometric shapes. If you want to create your own composition using organic shapes, you can, but I've already gone ahead and done some geometric ones for you. And what we're hoping to create in here is an abstract composition that creates visual interest while focusing on shape as the primary visual element that we are communicating through. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to cut out a series of shapes from our separate sheet that was included with your worksheet printout. So you can choose anywhere from 5 to 7 different shapes, and each shape should then be traced a total number of 3 to 5 times. And what we are going for is a high degree of complexity. But for right now, choose 5 to 7 shapes from here, and then save the rest of this page and save the shapes that you cut out, because you will be using these in later projects as well. So what you will arrive at are anywhere from 5 to 7 different shapes cut out from your extra shape sheet. And then each of these you are going to trace 3 to 5 times a piece across your composition, overlapping one another. If they go off the side, it's fine. Just stop drawing at the border. And you're going to do all of that overlapping using a light pencil or one of your H range pencils. If you need to have a refresher on which pencils are given which property, you can go to the video about materials for this course. And we are choosing a light pencil for today because this is just the underdrawing that we're having, so we don't want to have a lot of dark graphite marks on our paper. We want to have very light lines for our underdrawing. So then go ahead and save these shapes for later. You'll use these in later worksheets. And you are now going to outline everything that you have now done in black ink. So everywhere that you've had a pencil, if that mark was a little bit sketchy, now it's the time to draw nice smooth lines, because these outlines will be important for part of your craftsmanship grade, how neatly they are outlined. With the Tombow pen, if you chose this one as your selected marker for use, you have the bullet tip, which gives you a fine line, and you also have the brush tip, which will help with your filling in, which will come in a little bit later. So for right now, we're going to use your bullet tip. If you want to go even finer and use a fine like felt tip, super fine point pen like a micron or a Le Pen, you're more than welcome to. But as long as you are neat with your strokes, the bullet tip of the Tombow works perfectly well for outlining in this exercise. Note that I am avoiding putting my hand over the strokes that I have just made with the Tombow, it is quite possible when you are tracing over an ink, especially water-based ink, that you can smudge it. So take care about where you're putting your hands. So now is the time that we are going to be paying attention to these letters that have been put into the corners of those lines that come throughout your shape worksheet. So these letters correspond to the background value assigned to that particular segment. Anywhere you see a W, the background value is white. Anywhere you see a B, the background value is black. So what that means is anywhere where there is not a shape traced over in the W section, everything's going to remain white. In the B section, everything that is not traced over with a shape, you can go ahead and color in with your black ink. So for the B's, this is the only part we're worried about right now, is just the background. You're going to color in every area where there's not some sort of shape. Where shapes overlap, don't bother with that right now, just the backgrounds with no shapes on them. Because you may have to do more than one coat of black in order to have a fully opaque black, especially if you are using less expensive markers, you will probably have to do several layers. If that is the case, this is where the quality of your paper really becomes important. If you start to get your just printer paper too wet, it will start to tear. So in that case, you need to let your ink dry between each coat. And if you make a tiny little mistake, just redraw that line a little bit straighter. Now you can see on these two sections, all the black areas are now the background, and those have been colored out. Now anywhere you see a shape on top of it, you can now leave those shapes white. But where two shapes overlap one another, that you will now invert again back to black. So right there, back to black. When we get to right here, I'm going to pause and we're going to talk about special cases where you have 3 overlaps at one point. So right here we now have our special case where we have 2 white shapes that are on top of a black background. So in those 2 white shapes, when those overlap, this area will now be black. But when this other one, this shape, which is now on top of 3 layers of shapes, when it gets to here, it will invert again, be white. When it is on top of this one, then being black. There. So every time you add another layer on top, you should invert. If you see 2 shapes together and they are both white, then that means that one of those should be black. You need to figure out where that was supposed to happen. Now in the W sections, the background work is already done for you, so you can see that these will remain white in their background areas, and it is the initial shapes that are going to turn black now. Now wherever those shapes overlap, don't color those in, but those shapes that have been laid on top of the W background sections, those will not get filled in. All right, now at this opportunity, you should let this completely dry, all of your black ink. If you need to go over any areas and retouch them, if you need to go over any borders and straighten them up, now's the time to do that. Then once this is completely dry, it's not going to smudge anymore. Go over it, clean up any stray pencil marks with your eraser, and that will be your shape project for this week.